Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into this week's version of Wellness Wednesdays. My name is Dr. Faith Gibson-Hubbard, and I am honored to serve in the role of Executive Director of Thrive by 5 DC and to serve as the chair of Mayor Bowser's Thrive by 5 Coordinating Council. Thrive by 5 is excited to partner with the Department of Employment Services Office of Paid Family Leave. And with DC Paid Family Leave, district workers can receive 3 different types of leave: parental, medical, and family leave. As many of you know, DC Public Library has it all. From birth to seasoned adulthood, they have you covered. They really do, with everything, and much, much more than just books alone. And so I'm excited that today we are able to talk about all things early literacy. What are the things that we can be doing together as a community to really infuse literacy and writing skills into our youngest district residents? And I'm excited to be joined by 2 amazing people from DC Public Library, Ellen Reardon and Teresa Wang. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you for joining me and welcome. So I wanted to first start by just allowing you to introduce yourselves and also the roles that you play at DCPL.
Sure. So I'm Ellen Reardon. I'm the Assistant Director, Youth and Family Services for DC Public Library. So I oversee the direction, services, and programming for children birth through 18, all the way up.
Oh. And Teresa?
Hi, my name is Teresa Wang, and I'm the Early Literacy Services Coordinator for DC Public Library. So that means I get to work with staff on all our services, programs, and community partnerships that serve our customers from birth to 5 and their caregivers and educators.
That's wonderful. And I know my family has benefited so much from all the programs that you have at DC Public Library. And a lot of times when people think about the library of old, right, they may not think about all these different programs that you have available. So let's just get started by talking about what are those programs? What do you provide in the early literacy space? And maybe if we could kind of compartmentalize it in a couple ways so that we can better understand what's offered.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yep, Teresa, why don't you go ahead? This is your expertise.
So when we were in what I like to call the before times, when everything was kind of open, we had a great variety of offerings in person, of course. So there would be what I would consider the standard classic offerings, like story times for, specialized ones for just babies who are pre-walking, to toddlers, to preschoolers, to all ages programs, depending on the community and those who are coming in. And of course, we would also do a lot of outreach to the community. We also, of course, had things around music and singing, because that's really important in developing early literacy skills in children, as well as playing, a really strong emphasis on that too. Now, when the library's physical campus closed for the pandemic-related reasons, we knew that it was really important to keep that community connection and make sure that parents and caregivers still had a way to learn about how they can help their children develop those early literacy pre-reading skills, and a place to come to for expertise and just ideas of fun things they can do at home. Because one of the most important early literacy skills you can learn and instill in your children is that reading, stories, and language are fun. So one of the first things we transitioned over to the digital realm was an all ages story time. So we do our virtual story times now on our DC Public Library Facebook Live page every Monday through Friday.
At 10:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm, yes,
I know it is.
I've seen you and your child commenting on the story time, so we really appreciate that. So of course, that's a great way to get some singing, talking, reading, playfulness in during, just your everyday routine, hopefully. And depending on the publisher's permissions, we're able to keep some of those videos archived on our Facebook page. So if you can't quite catch it at 10:30 because your baby is napping, something happens, life happens, you can always come and tune in later on. And we just think that holistic learning is really important, and again, having fun in all the different ways. So in addition to story times, we've also had a great partnership program with Nat's Youth Baseball Academy, where we did a books and baseball program for the preschool set. So there was reading, there were songs, and there was also some baseball practice. So they're getting that physical fitness activity in and getting that whole body movement, because we really want to support the health and well-being of the whole child and the whole family. And we also have ongoing through the end of September, a baby yoga program with a lovely instructor, Stephanie, and that program is supported by the Friends of the West End Library. So there's some book time and there's some play time integrated with yoga, and a really adorable baby that Stephanie has brought into the class with her. That's her baby.
The star of the show. Yes.
Exactly.
The star of the baby yoga show.
Mm-hmm. So that's really fun as well. And then, of course, you know, we know that families are really used to having a wonderful array of different singers, dancers, performers for children and families throughout the summer. So we definitely have continued with that as well. And we have wonderful performances that have happened already and some that are coming up this month and next month, including Uno Dos Tres Andres, who is a Latin Grammy Award winning performer who's always so popular. And he does really great bilingual English-Spanish programs. So you get both the language learning in English and in Spanish, and some geography, music. It's a lot of fun. And we have similar music performers coming up. And then this weekend, we actually have Koyaba dancers. So it's really, again, a whole body movement, fun for the whole family. So we hope that there's a little bit of something for everyone. And again, we want to emphasize that you should do what feels fun for your child and what feels fun for you. That's the best way and the most playful way for your child to learn with you.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. And I'll just add, there's a couple of overarching things. You know, in some ways, I think even before COVID hit, we were thinking about how to be a support for families in the community and work in partnership with them. An important program that we've had in the before time that has really stayed the same through this time, except maybe for the postal issues that arise sometimes, is Books from Birth. So this is something available to all district-wide children from birth. Parents can opt in right at the hospital when they apply for the birth certificate. And a book is mailed, an age-appropriate book is mailed to the child's home every month until they're 5. So, you know, through the whole program, a family can amass a home library of about 64 volumes of high-quality books that can start them on their literacy journey. That's really a signature program for what we call it's early literacy, but we also at DC Public Library put our early literacy offerings in a STAR framework, and STAR stands for Sing, Talk, and Read. So you heard Teresa mention that when she was describing the individual programs, but that's always been viewed as something that the community should know that we can provide expertise in. Teresa mentioned, you know, it's about fun, it's holistic, it's about thinking about how just going about the parts of your day can be a part of early learning. And I think that's something that our STAR programs do really well. And we really support that. Sing, talking, and reading is something you can incorporate in your days home with your children. And it really can help build routines. It helps with transition from nap time to meal time to bedtime, all of those times of the day when transitions and routines can be so important just to the running of households, which we know now in this time is very complex.
It is, and it definitely helped me with routines when I was home after my babies, after I had both of my children. it was also, the books from birth was also something that we could really look forward to because it was their very first piece of mail, you know, and kind of like, yay. I mean, my daughter now is 2, and when she gets her book, she's like, yay, I got something, you know, and she gets really excited. And it is also an area in which we can really show equity in action, right? Because we know that not every family is able to purchase this large library as some others can. And I think it's another great connection to the library. So I guess pre-COVID, what were some of the tools that you would connect to these early literacy resources that you could, of course, mail straight to their home? How would you help connect that back into the library so that families can not only make those connections at home, but also bring them to the library for the additional resources that you have?
Yeah. Teresa, you want to take the first stab at that?
Sure. Yeah, so I think one thing that we've always done and we continue to do is that we hope the Books from Birth books are a little gateway of interest for that whole family. So you notice your baby kind of gnawing on those books or touching them and flipping the page, just paying a little bit of attention for one page while you read. Hopefully that inspires you to get a library card and let us help you pick out more books. And that's a service that we still have available to parents and caregivers. So you can go to our website, dclibrary.org/get a card to get a library card digitally online. And you're still able to ask our expert staff for help in finding books that's going to meet the interests of your child and of you, because you should definitely read books that you enjoy with your children. So if you go to just the website, dclibrary.org, there's a little chat widget where you can speak with library staff on the chat. And let them know what you've been reading with your child that you've enjoyed, and they can give you more suggestions and help you put things on hold. So I think that's a valuable service we provide and that staff really enjoy, and I hope families enjoy as well. And I think that's a wonderful way to make that connection with the Books from Birth items.
We also did and do have a newsletter that goes out to families that gives additional tips, additional book ideas. I think one of the things Teresa mentioned that I just like to go back to, because I think it's so very important with families, and that is it's really important to enjoy the books that you're sharing. And not everyone enjoys every book. You know, I remember a story famously, I was listening to Maurice Sendak talk before he passed, and you know, he told a story about he was in a talk and a woman said, you know, I've read my daughter Where the Wild Things Are 3 times and all she does is cry. And he says, well, stop reading it to her, right? It's not working for her. And it's important because that's an award-winning book. It's a well-known book. It's a book that maybe other people think is a great book, but if it's not working for your family or your way, children get the most out of literacy when there's real joy and love attached to the experience and the text. So one of the things I think the library does really well is we have other choices and we can help you find things that you particularly like and your family is particularly engaged with. So that's another way I think we bring it back around.
Yeah, and I think also just ideas for building that routine. We're hoping that with the programs we had in person in the past and now virtually, that we're giving families ideas of ways they can engage with even their youngest child at home. And, you know, we're hoping that people aren't worried about things being perfect. Like, for example, during story time, we talk about how you can use shakers and things like that to keep the beat and help your baby and child learn rhythm. But I love to demonstrate that with mint tins, with like a little spice jar. You shake it, it makes a noise. You don't have to buy an egg shaker or some sort of musical instrument to have those kind of tools and toys, makeshift toys at home. Because I've certainly seen children, you know, back in the day have a great time in the library just scribbling on paper, which really helps develop their fine motor skills, prepares them to write or to have fun and play and do all kinds of imaginative play around like a big cardboard box that you might have from some sort of online package. So I encourage you to use what you have, get your inspiration maybe from what you're seeing in terms of library programs, but certainly don't feel like you have to do things exactly that way. You know, sing the songs that you love along with your child to the radio, sing songs you learned as a child, sing songs in your native language, you know, do it your own way and put your own spin on it, because like Ellen said, your child is going to feed off your energy, your enthusiasm, and they're really just going to enjoy spending time with you, and they're going to be learning as well.
Yeah, and I would say the virtual story time on Facebook Live is like a double-edged sword, right? Because you teach our kids about all these great things we could do at home with just cornstarch and a little bit of water. And then all of a sudden my kids are like, we're going to do all these projects where they're shaking everything. So it can be a gift and also a challenge, as when I'm cooking dinner, my daughter's then like, I want to shake, 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 you know, so she's really into it. And that's the one thing that I love, is that there has been nothing that's been shown, especially during this time of COVID-19, and, you know, we're just in a different routine. There's been nothing that's been shown through story time, the virtual story time, that I couldn't replicate at home with a few simple things. And I think that that's really great. And just the sense of community that it continues to build, because I know so many times, especially when most of the early child development centers were still closed, this was 10:30 was absolutely the time I had my 2-year-old parked down in front of the computer so that she could grasp that. And I saw so many other friends also join in, and I think that's really great. So let's talk a little bit just about how you also support families in being able to figure out how to support their children in meeting certain milestones, right? We know that this is a really confusing time for parents, this early literacy point. And, you know, all children, I think my son's principal said, children are like kernels of popcorn. One pops at different times. They don't all pop at the same time. When you hear it in the microwave, or even when we used to do popcorn on the stove, each kernel popped in its own unique pattern, and children are just like that. And so how do you also support parents in knowing what those milestones are and supporting them in uncovering them along with their children? Because that's also part of the discovery collectively together. How can you do that at the library?
So I think one thing that I even just notice as library staff and seeing families come in is that if you keep going to, for example, the same program, you'll notice your child picking up on what's happening, and they are slowly developing their cognition, their language skills. And, you know, when they first come in, they don't know what's going on. It's a brand new experience for them. But after 6 months, you know, you even see a baby or a toddler starting to clap in advance of the song that involves clapping, because they know that routine. So I find developing that routine and kind of doing the same or similar things repeatedly, you notice the small incremental changes that are happening in your child's life. And then sort of more formally, we have had great partnerships with DCPS Early Stages, who works on the support for children who might need different supports and screenings if parents have milestone concerns. And then we also work with Office of the State Superintendent of Education's Strong Start office, which does a similar thing for birth to 2 children. And those two divisions are still very much in operation. We're still trying to partner with them, or perhaps bring some milestones workshops for parents and caregivers. But, you know, if you're unsure about some milestones questions and you're not sure who to ask, again, you can always still write in, chat in, call in to library staff, and we can connect you with those community resources. They are the true experts on, you know, whether your child's development is typical. If you have questions, you should definitely feel free to call them, to contact them. They can do virtual screenings and assessments, and really just connect you and your child with the resources they may need to fully support their development.
Yes, I think Teresa really hit a very important aspect of our work. And that is as convener, we can convener connector of what else the community has to offer for families. So if there's questions that families have and they're not sure, the library is a great place to go. I think also, I just want to reiterate, sometimes you talked about the double-edged sword of virtual story time. Another double-edged sword of the way that young children learn is repetition. So, the book that you've read 86 times and you feel like you're going to just not be able to read it yet again is serving such an important function in early learning and the early literacy process. So hang in there. And also, I think just having that sense of, Teresa mentioned it, play, of the whole child, of physical well-being, it's all of a piece. And so some of just the ability to find space and time to enjoy a book together in whatever way that is. Sometimes we are dealing with families where maybe reading skills are charged for people, either they don't feel they have the right reading skills to read with their child, or they can't do what the trained librarians on virtual story time can do. Lots of us can't do those things, but you can share and talk about pictures. You can relate the book to what's happening in a child's life, and that is as valuable as reading the text that's printed there if it works for you and your child, and that's how you connect. So I think that's a really important thing to remember too.
Yeah, because literacy skills, while we want children to have them infused into their lives so early, we do know that literacy is a challenge that many people struggle to master. Even people who are really well educated or are not. Literacy is something that is very much dictated by the repetition or exposures that you had when you were younger, so I think that's definitely a space where I know DCPL also has a very robust offering for adults, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But that if a family does,
but we do,
right? But that if families do need additional supports, that DCPL has that to offer, and you also work with really great partners that are within the community as well to reinforce those supports. So there's really so many great things. I just wanted to, before we close, talk a little bit about how you work in Sing Talk Read to celebrate diversity. We have a very diverse population in the District of Columbia, and I think that's really beautiful. There are people who have been in the district for a long time, and they built the foundation upon which we stand now. And then there are other folks who are newer and are helping to add, another column or another brick to that foundation. How do you work to celebrate the diversity and the types of storytime offerings that you have, or in the programming that you do around Sing, Talk, and Read?
So I'll take the first comment here, and then I'll let Teresa give some specific examples. But what I would say is this work is ongoing, and there's always more work to be done. So I don't think we're ever going to get to a place where we're like, now we completely are done figuring out diversity in the system. I think it's ever evolving. The good news is, I think nationally, the publishing trends are also being very intentional about this. We Need Diverse Books is an organization recently that's come into the fore and kind of brought some resources together. I will say at DC Public Library, I think we have a proven history of seeking out what was available that expressed diversity. But now that the nation, I think, is becoming more intentional, we expect to continue to even improve upon that. And then Teresa can give some specific examples.
Sure. I actually had grabbed some of my favorite storytime books in general.
Yay, I was hoping.
To have really racially diverse, ethnically diverse characters. So I'll just show some examples. This is a newer one. Thank you, Amu. kind of an older favorite, bibimbap, which features one of my favorite foods, and I used this for story time recently. Another newer board book, Bath, 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 has a pretty diverse cast of babies running around taking baths, which is so fun. Making Faces, which is absolutely one of my favorites. Their faces are just so expressive. I mean, I love that. And then again, another older one, The Bus for Us, which is a lot of fun and also shows some diversity in ability as well, which I really appreciate. So I would say that one thing we try to make at the forefront of our programs and services and our collections, which is what we call everything that you're able to check out, whether it's digitally or physically in person, is to make diversity really important and keep it top of mind. And, you know, I was just having this discussion in another meeting with Ellen about how, especially for children, I think it's really important to emphasize books where children of all races and backgrounds are doing fun, regular kid things, because that's relatable, that's fun, and in addition to, you know, sometimes having books where the point is certain struggles or certain historical context being important. We want to show kids of all kinds being reflected in the program's offerings they have at the library. And I do think being very purposeful about seeking out those books for programs that we use is an important part of that. And as Ellen said, you know, the part of it is that there's a bit more of a publishing trend towards that. So there are better choices, but really, yeah, just keeping that in mind and really looking for those titles that are great books and make great books for presenting in Storytime and other programs. And we also try to reflect the diversity that we see in DC in terms of the different languages spoken. So of course, Spanish is a huge one. So we try to have some Spanish language programs like Uno, Dos, Tres, Andres, as well as some of our homegrown programs. We try to incorporate those languages and traditions as well.
Yeah, and we've really enjoyed that. I know the Spanish story time that's been virtual, and my kids also have certain librarians they like even better. So when we log on, my daughter's like, you know, she has certain ones that she really likes. But I think just that exposure, whether it's your native language or not, just that exposure, I think it's really great. And you guys are one of at this point, one of the only places that are open. So it's also great that people can, you know, tangibly touch the things that are there in the library and also have access to those resources. But I think you really are also pushing many of us in the district to do things a little bit differently as well in the way in which we serve families or work in partnership with them. So it's really exciting, the work that you do. So before we close out, do you want to tell people where they can get additional resources and information about the youth programming that you have?
Sure. So if you go to our website, dclibrary.org/calendar, you'll be able to see all the various programs we have. And for the youth programs, we tend to have things on our Facebook page. So that's facebook.com/DC Library. Those would be the best places. And if you haven't signed up for Books from Birth,
thank you.
Please go to library.org/Books from Birth to sign up. We make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, it is. And if you're about to have a baby, you're going to get the paperwork anyways if you're at a DC hospital. So.
Right. But if you already have a little one and you've just moved here or you're just discovering it, you can still do it right online. It's very easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you so much. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that for Books from Birth, there are some bilingual English-Spanish books as part of the packages that get sent out as well. So.
Yeah, well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining me for today's conversation. I love DC Public Library, so I was really excited that you guys agreed and made the time. It was such an honor to hold this space with you. So thank you for sharing that information. And thank you so much to everyone who took part in joining us for today's conversation. Be sure to stay connected with the Office of Paid Family Leave by visiting their website at dcpaidfamilyleave.dc.gov and by joining their mailing list and following DOES at DOES_DC on Twitter and on Instagram. And also to learn more about Thrive by 5, which will help to connect you also as well to DCPL and all the great programming we talked about today, visit Thrive by 5 at thriveby5.dc.gov or on our social media outlets at Thrive by 5 DC. And that's the word 5. So Thrive by 5 DC. So again, thank you so much and have a great day, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.